Ready. Ha ha. For real, though. You guys ready? Clemson. Less than 2 weeks. The scumbag program. The slack-jawed doofus. Dabo Swinney. Lowlife. Hilljack. A shitty person. What was all that stuff with the cutting up the chain? And why didn't them boys do nothing? One. I'm fired up, though. I'm fired up, and I'm going to tell you why. It's a big week. Beating FSU the way them boys did, that's big. But beating Clemson is not the next step. I hate to break it to everybody. I just assume brawl with this team and avenge the shaming that they took with allowing Dabo Swinney, the slack-jawed doofus, the hilljack, allowing him to disrespect the turnover chain, encourage his players to disrespect the turnover chain. Who does that? Now, for good measure, I've heard that he's got police security around that stupid rock they worship. Because, of course, somebody tried to hit it with their car or something. And I guess the state legislator jumped in or whatever, and now it's a big deal. That thing's protected. Their big shit rock is protected. Let's just take a look at Clemson. They're a damn good football team. They've won a lot of games. Last, I don't know how many years, 7 years or so. They've been winning a lot of football games. They're really good. They're really stout on defense. But they're Hilljacks. Because as fun as it was last week making fun of Tallahassee, dude, at least people can spot Tallahassee on a map. At least Tallahassee has an airport. People don't even know what state Clemson's in. Is it in West Virginia? Is it in Virginia? Is it in North Carolina, South Carolina? Nobody knows. Is it in Kentucky? Nobody knows where Clemson is, and nobody cares because they're Hilljacks. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, we had a good time last week making fun of the those chicken finger eating fools in Tallahassee, them Matlock boys. Well, Matlock's on like 4 times a day in Tallahassee, and they watch every episode. Clemson, on the other hand, has nothing except Clemson football. And to prove my point, the Hilljacks, a slack-jawed doofuses, I wonder if they're going to make Dabo Swinney wear a mask when I haven't even seen chinless masks yet. What's he going to do, tie the thing around his back? Because he's got no chin. His head's shaped like my foot. If you have to be subtitled in your own country when you speak, you should probably go to speech therapy. Giggity, giggity, giggity. Get out of here with that giggity nonsense. I've, tweeted ESPN 100 times. Put subtitles underneath that dude. Put it underneath his chin. There's plenty of room because he's got none. He's a slack-jawed doofus. Okay? And I wouldn't usually go out hard at a guy like that about a deformity. But he drew first blood when he destroyed the chain. Dude, beat me 58-0. That's on me. That's on my players, the nothings. I've pretty much forgotten all the players' names that lost 58-0. But if I do see him on the sidelines or I see him at a restaurant or whatever, I'm going to say, hey, what's up, nothing? Clemson, they're 58 and you're nothing. And, I mean, Dabo, that was just, like, imagine after Miami beat Notre Dame, if Miami had gone into their locker room and taken like a 6-foot wooden cross with a plastic Jesus on it and taken a sledgehammer to it. Imagine what the media would have done then. But no, it's funny. Cut up the chain. It's hysterical. And then to make matters worse, Manny and them don't do nothing. They let Clemson abuse the chain. They let Notre Dame abuse the chain. Even though we won the game, they still didn't get revenge for the chain. Wisconsin, That fat, ham-faced looking dude, he disrespected the chain, didn't he? F that chain. Pitt, did they disrespect the chain? I think they did. And every other lousy program that's got to say something about the chain. If you're going to bust out and have that chain, you got to be willing to defend it, okay? Because everybody's going to come at it. Nobody's going at other schools. Oh, they brought out a wooden anvil. Oh, this one's got a beach chair for a guy to sit in. Oh, this one's got some lunch pail bucket. It's not the same. Dude, that necklace thing, the one now is like $300,000. So, of course, they're going to try to abuse the chain. Especially when they're low self-esteem people from that part of the country that have nothing except football. God bless. Dabo Swinney makes $90 million in his contract, like a 10-year contract for $90 million. Go take a look at the rest of their fans, what they're making. They wish they had a Guthrie's chicken finger place up there. Trust me. You meet a Clemson fan, ask him if he's got a Ricky Scarborough. Hey, you got a Ricky Scarborough? Nah? What about a Buddy Davis? Not Butch Davis. Buddy Davis. You got one? Nah. What about a Mortensen? You got a Mortensen? Nah. They don't even know what these are. These are high-quality, custom-made sport fish boats. Carolina boats. Trust me, these Clemson fans don't have them. What they do have is they dress up and they put on a shirt and tie, kind of like Al Golden. And they put on a crisp white shirt that's been starched. And they throw on like an orange tie. And if they're real crazy, they throw on the orange blazer. And the reason that's funny is because it's ironic. It's as stupid as when the Step Brothers put on the tuxedos to go apply for a job. Like they're laughing at their own irony. Like imagine us, wearing shirts and ties and jackets and, looking like gentlemen. Instead of hayseeds, instead of hilljacks. So, I fully expect there to be a brawl, either before the game, coming out of the tunnel, during warm-ups, or early, because you can't let them do that. You can't let Dabo come and snatch your chain. Have some pride. The 2017 or the 2018 team that allowed that to happen. You just sat there and let that man take your chain like Debo did to Red. No excuse. All right, now let's get to the game. All right, we know Clemson's really good. They're the number one team in the nation. And Miami isn't charged this year, Manny and his recruits are not charged with having to beat the number one team in America. That's not expected of them. Would it be great if it happens? Yes. Will it be a huge upset and vault the program forward? Yes, but it's not an expectation. The expectation is to not look like the last two matchups, 96-3 or whatever the combined score is, right? 58-0 and then like 38-3. Man, Rick should have been drop kicked and thrown off that field. Or it was Manny, whoever it was. You lose like that again, you're fired. You lose 58-0 again. So I'm looking for Miami to play Clemson a lot more competitively. You don't have to win the game, but you can't. Oh, my God. Here we go. Sorry about that. Just X out of that. Yeah. Amateur mistake there. I got things popping up on the screen. I'm getting fired up here. It's already Wednesday. We've got another week and a half until we play Clemson. It's another night game. And I'm just looking for the team to make the next step forward. They don't have to come out and look like the 2001 Canes and go toe-to-toe, blow for blow with Clemson. Clemson's got good players, even if they're chumps, like the two kids that cut the chain, or Splits the clown who's now on the Dolphins. That clown, I hate him. I can't stand Flores or, what's his name, Greer of the Dolphins for drafting that jackass. So I ain't rooting for Christian Wilkins. Splits the clown. Grabbing in man duty hole. What a weirdo. Joe Robbie would have never put up with that. Don Shula would have never drafted that dude. But here we are. So the Canes running attack took a step back this week. Maybe FSU's defense is a little better, or maybe because of matchups or whatever, they decided to feature the running game a little bit more. But look, we looked back at the post-FSU stuff, and the rushing yards weren't there. And then I guess it was Monday, the Syracuse running back won ACC Running Back of the Week honors. Syracuse. Now, it wasn't Jim Brown. They didn't bring him back. This guy's name is Sean Tucker. Rhymes with. Now, how are you going to brag that you got the 3 best running backs, or these running backs are all great, and then you lose Player of the Week? ACC. It's only ACC Player of the Week to some kid that's playing for Syracuse that came out of Maryland. Do we need to get him in the transfer portal? So I'm looking for the running backs to step up. I'm not into the 3-headed running back thing. I don't mind guys getting a couple carries in the second half, but the feature back should get the most carries in the first half. And then what happens is the running back, the number 2 running back, spells the number 1 running back at like halfway through the third quarter. That's the way it's gone down here at running back U, right? We had Edgerrin James. He was a feature back. And then in the second half, you put in James Jackson, and then he breaks a 60-yarder because he's got fresh legs and he's got speed, but he was not the feature back. Edgerrin James was the feature back. Then Edgerrin James goes to the NFL, and James Jackson becomes the feature back, and Clinton Portis becomes the second half back, right? He can take the ball 60 yards. He's super fast, and when the defense is worn down, because that is the object of running the ball, is wearing the defense down, right? James Jackson was also able to take it the distance, but Portis was the spell. So in the third quarter, you put in Portis, and Portis starts ripping off long runs. Now, I forget what happened, whether James Jackson got injured or why Portis became the feature back when he was a freshman. But you remember he played and he ran like really well against Virginia Tech, but they kept slapping the ball out of his hands. Like 8 times he fumbled. He didn't lose them all, but they just kept slapping the ball out of his hands because he was a freshman. He didn't know how to hold the ball. But he was a supreme talent. Solinger had to get him on the field. But I remember just screaming at him like, man, there's more going on here than speed and moves. Like Virginia Tech is a tough team. They play like they're tough guys. They don't play like the Miami dudes. They play tough. So they're slapping the ball out. Then Portis became the feature back. And who was the second half back? Frank Gore. Frank Gore was then taking it 55 and 60 yards in the second half in the third quarter, giving Portis a break. And then because of serious bad luck, nobody got unluckier than Coker and Solinger losing Gore twice. So then it became Portis and McGahee, right? Or McGahee, Portis left early. And then McGahee just became the feature back because Gore was injured. And McGahee had, probably the greatest season of a Miami running back. And as unlucky would have it, they lost him forever. So we got one season out of Willis McGahee. Piss poor. He was never even the second back. Like, I think when McGahee became the feature back, then Davenport was the second back. But Davenport was a big kid. He wasn't like your traditional second back, third quarter running back. He was a big dude. It was a weird thing. They got really unlucky. Solinger and Coker lost Gore twice, McGahee, and then Tyrone Moss all in a row. And then it was over for the program. It was over for the program when McGahee, went down. They've never bounced back after that. I mean, it's like either the number 1 or second worst injury in televised sports history. Right? There's like Theismann, Napoleon Kaufman, and McGahee. And that just crushed dudes. You just don't come back from that. So we need to set the tone. Next Saturday against Clemson, you got to run the ball. And I'm not talking about with the quarterback. Like, that dude keeps running around, he's going to get knocked out. He's little. And he's not that thick. And he's already taken some huge shots. Whichever one of these running backs, probably Cam, you want to be the dog, right? You're going to carry the ball 30 times. This whole I'm good for 12 or 15 carries. Let me tap the top of my helmet and get a replacement in real quick because I'm a little winded. Dude, toughen up. When are we going to get another running back tough like Edgerrin James that actually hurts the guys that are trying to tackle him? Those guys are taking elbows to the throat, knees to the chin. And you're going up there. You're going to play Clemson. Clemson has all that talent, all them number one guys they've been stockpiling for years because that's all Clemson has is football. And I know you guys want that to be like the University of Miami to get there, but Miami's never going to be like Clemson or Alabama or Oklahoma or Ohio State or Florida. It's just not realistic. It's not that kind of school, and it's not that kind of program. They don't have that kind of alumni. We don't live in rural America where nobody cares whether kids are getting cars or kids are getting $1,000 handshakes. Everybody in Miami's a rat. That's why Miami gets caught every time. Like, there's a few things that Miami has going bad for it, which I wish the school and the players would fix. One is the ex-players coming back with sports cars and bling. Like, the rule should be you come back and you hang around these kids, you rent a normal car. Rent an Altima or something. And don't wear any jewelry and come back because these kids see that. USC also has the problem too, and they're always in trouble. But when you hang around celebrities and celebrities come back, and some of the Miami Hurricane football players are bigger celebrities than the local celebrities, and egos and this and that, then you have kids posing in front of cars and kids sitting in Lamborghinis. Stupid. It's just dumb. And then you have what we had a couple years ago. The kid got thrown off the team, and it was a scandal, and they all think like, they're smart like the dude in Goodfellas that bought the new car after De Niro told everybody don't buy nothing. Oh, no, it's okay. I put it in my mother's name. Dope. Right? They found him in the car with the wife and the fur coat and all that. It's not, Miami's never going to be like Clemson, where the entire town is dedicated to Clemson football because that's all they have. Every single person in the grocery store is a Clemson fan. They've all got Clemson gear on, and that's all they're into. And that's all over the South. That's Alabama. That's Tennessee. That's Gators. The Noles, kinda, but Noles are a little bit different. That's the state capital, and so many of those kids are from South Florida that the Noles have always been like the baby brother of Miami. But those hardcore SEC schools, Georgia, Tennessee, Bama, they're not going to get in trouble. They're not going to get popped like Miami would. Miami does one thing. It's on TMZ in 20 minutes. There's paparazzi here. Everybody here's a rat. I can only imagine how many people have taken pictures and sent it to the NCAA here because you have fans from other teams that live here. Friggin' Channing Crowder's on the goddamn radio here. Where the hell does that happen? I seriously doubt Lamar Thomas is on the radio in Gainesville. Right? But half the radio personalities down here aren't even from the local market. Yeah, I know he played for the Dolphins, but it's a disgrace that there's a Gator host on a major sports talk show here. That's why I'm always fighting for Rashad Butler and Brian Monroe to get their slots on those stations because I don't want to hear Gator stuff. Dude, you want to talk Gators? Go to Gainesville. Go watch the movie Big Trouble. How many of you guys have seen Big Trouble? It's a really good movie. It was written, I think the novel or maybe the movie too, screenplay was written by Dave Barry. It's a Miami story, a crazy story about a suitcase nuke on an airplane. As luck would have it, I think the movie came out either a week before or a week after 9/11 in 2001. So the studio shelved the movie immediately. We can't have a movie about a suitcase nuke right now. And once they shelf a movie, they can never crank up the marketing campaign again. But the movie's really good. And it's got a cast of characters in it. And watch it. Find it. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. And it's got a great scene where a couple of hitmen are waiting for their target, and they've got sports radio on. And that's all I'm going to tell you. You can find the clip on YouTube. You can rent the movie from iTunes. I don't think it's on Netflix or any of the streaming services. But times aren't that tough. You know, you can go $2.99 for a rental. God knows what we were all spending in Blockbuster, 25 years ago. I probably paid the salary of like the Marlins second baseman for 6 years on late fees. I had multiple IDs for Blockbuster late fees. Like I'd have one account so buried in late fees that I'd have to pull out another account. And I was friends with Mr. Heisinger. I tried to negotiate with him and be like, dude, just call up and have them zero me out. Like, do the right thing. I'm a real movie fanatic. I try to make my own movies, film school, all this stuff. Like, cut me a break. And I'm not even getting new releases. I'm renting, like, weird stuff. Horror films, foreign films. I'd go in there, they're like, you have $108 worth of late fees? Oh, no, this is, that's somebody else. Here, my middle initial is V. Run this card. Oh, that one's clean. Yeah, let me go get 3 movies real quick. And then the one thing I did, so you can figure out what year it was, it must have been 92, 93. The late fees got so bad at Blockbuster. And that's a Fort Lauderdale company. It was headquartered right here in Fort Lauderdale. They should have at least cut me some slack, and they had to make me get desperate. So I ended up shaving my head and claiming that I'd been in Iraq fighting. And that's why I couldn't bring the movies back. And then I got the other customers in the store, like on my side, to the general manager, and they were like, oh, yeah, man, you can't charge a veteran late fees. Well, how much are the late fees? They're like $200 or whatever. And they did end up wiping them out. Listen, at one point I had the record for the most residential Blockbuster rentals. I'm not competing with daycare centers and other places that rented movies commercially. But as far as just being single rental person, I had the record for years, and it wasn't even close. You understand? So let's get back to Clemson and Miami. Got to run the ball. One running back has got to step up and tote the rock. Jesse Palmer's already on the record the first week, saying that Travis Etienne is the best running back in the ACC. Tuh! I spit on that. How do you declare that in the first week? Or before the first week, before the first game, you just proclaim Etienne is the best running back in the ACC? Man, somebody needs to prove him wrong. One of these kids needs to go out there and run it down their throats. I see that Cam, I think, has the second most yards and yards per carry in the ACC, but he's losing to the running back from Louisville. Hawkins or something was his name. Javian Hawkins from Titusville. Yeah, he got all those yards because he got to run against Miami's defense that was refusing to tackle him. That's why he's got 300 and something yards. He got like 160 of them versus Miami. So as we move further down the schedule, I hope that Louisville kid, like if we can't beat out a running back from Syracuse that's from Maryland and the kid from Louisville who's from Titusville, I'm going to want changes at the running back position and maybe at offensive coordinator and maybe at head coach. Like, enough is enough. Start breaking some records running the ball. Start getting serious about running the damn ball. If they cared as much about running the football as they did about those stupid rings that nobody wants to wear. Like, how many hints do you need? After whoever Cam turned down the rings, the touchdown rings, and then they went to the O-line, and the O-line is like, yeah, we don't want them either. Dude, they're done. You retire them. Melt them down. Return them to the jeweler. Take them back to the Seabold building or wherever you got those things made. It's over. Nobody likes the rings, right? Some freshman or whatever wants to put them on. Tough shit. Go play defense and get an interception. You want to wear the jewelry. Or play special teams and get an interception. But like the touchdown rings, especially when you can't run the ball against Florida State, yeah, they ran it for 200, but Cam had 3.6 yards a carry. Not good. And these receivers who's been struggling, like I said on Twitter earlier in the week, like I give you 2 chances. I don't give you a third. Like, okay, dude, you fumbled like twice. Sit down. Go sit on the bench. And these guys are so worried about catching the ball and running with it that they can't catch the ball. They're turning, their head's turning around. They're looking, dude, just catch the ball. The De'Ara King is actually throwing you the ball in good spaces where if you just catch it, you'll still have some yards after catch. You know what I mean? It's not like previous quarterbacks that basically the receiver had to stop and show him both shoulders and then, you just throw it. There's no yards after catch and there's an immediate tackle. That is remedial football. That's remedial quarterback. Oh, I see a receiver. He's open. Now he's stopping and showing me his numbers. Now I throw it, and it's either caught, tipped up for an interception and a pick six, or it's a drop. Well, now we've got an actual quarterback that's putting the ball where it's supposed to be, where you can get yards after catch, but the guys are just dropping them. And the receiver is the sorriest dude on the team. I just can't. You guys keep listening to my podcast, and I'm going to educate you. I will correct you on what players to root for and what players not to root for. And if your favorite player is a wide receiver and it's not Mike Irvin or Andre Johnson, a badass, a tough guy, a dude that doesn't drop friggin' third downs and touchdowns, then I won't say a word to you. But when you jock these chumps, think about all the great receivers and how many of them never won anything. Because receivers are chumps. The reason that only happens to Antonio Brown and T.O., how come that stuff doesn't happen to other players on other positions? Because you get knocked out. I think I brought it up to Rashad Butler a year or two ago on Twitter. And I was like, when I grew up, a receiver that was crying and running his mouth and bitching at the quarterback, a linebacker beat his ass in the locker room after practice. And he's like, yeah, that don't happen no more. We're in the 2000s now. You can't beat up a kid in the locker room anymore. Well, maybe that's the problem. Maybe these receivers need to get beat up if you can. I wouldn't sit there and allow a receiver to just chatter and run his mouth continuously the whole time. Go watch Berrios. I didn't see that dude say a word. He just got better every year, and by the time that the team needed to count on him, he caught everything they threw to him. The big wind up and punching the grass after a drop. What is that? That's not to himself, because you don't need outward expression if you're holding yourself accountable. That's him showing off to the team and the coaches and even the fans, I'm upset with myself. Dude, stop being upset with yourself and start catching the ball. Nobody cares that you just punched the ground. That's not oh, wow, man, he's fired up. Do you see how hard he punched the grass? Let's throw it to him again. Doesn't happen. And we're playing, what they're calling is the greatest college quarterback of our life. This long-faced dude from Clemson. Trevor Lawrence walks in a bar. Bartender says, why the long face? And trust me, he's not going to age well. If you look like Pete Carroll already in a blonde wig when you're 17 or 18, gravity never stops. You know what I mean? So he's going to look like a piece of wood in a couple of years. That hair is going to fall out. But he can sling it and he can run it. So it's a tall order for the Hurricanes. I'm not putting it on them. They don't have to. This isn't a must win. They don't have to beat Clemson. What they do have to do is beat everybody else on the schedule. Stop losing to North Carolina. Stop losing to Virginia and Virginia Tech. But it's not an expectation to just blow out Clemson or, we should beat Clemson this year. They shouldn't. There's a trajectory. A incline, if you can do graphs or you can do, plotting. The first thing, First step is to not lose to bad teams. Stop choking and losing games yourself. And then the next step, believe it or not, is winning a close game. Miami hasn't even gotten to the second step yet. Beating number 1 is like step 10. You know, they're 8 steps away from being like, wow, we really need to, we should beat Clemson this week or whatever. Clemson's, a 2 touchdown favorite. I didn't even look at the line, but it's not an expectation, not a realistic expectation. And I'm not into unrealistic expectations, especially not when you're coming from rock bottom and the way that 2019 ended. Not even going to bring it up because it just gets me fired up. Show up, avenge that necklace, and let them kids know, hey, dude, like you can beat us. We shake hands at the end of the game or we don't shake hands or whatever, but you're not going to abuse me. And Manny needs to make that known to Dabo. Dabo Sweeney. The Hilljack. The slack-jawed doofus with no chin. Giggity, giggity, giggity. I don't understand a single word comes out of that moron's mouth. I think half of these coaches are coked up. See them at halftime? Eyes bulging out of their heads, talking 100 miles an hour. I tweeted some video last year of Willie Taggart and then a few years before that of Jimbo, of Dabo. Got to step up, Manny. Don't let these kids embarrass the fans, embarrass the community by allowing them to mess with that chain again. So this is our little, my setup. We got, like I said, a week and a half. Maybe I'll do another podcast. I appreciate everybody. They'll get better. It's just me. It's just me and a microphone and the 808. I got no sponsors. Don't want any sponsors. I don't have a co-host. I don't need a co-host. I don't have guests. Maybe in the future I will, but I got no questions for guests right now. It's just me. So I appreciate the support, everybody. This was a huge week. I think I went up to 500 total downloads on the podcast, over 500, with an estimated audience of about 180. And then the Twitter account, I think, is over 300. If I haven't followed you back, it's because Twitter's playing games with I'm trying to follow everybody back that followed me, and it keeps saying you've reached your limit of followers for the day. Click here to find out more. So I click here, and then it says you can only follow 400 people a day, but it clicked me off at like 200. So, just another Twitter glitch. If I don't get to you or I haven't followed you back, that's why. So give it like another week. And if I haven't followed you back, hit me up because there's a good chance that I'll mess the whole thing up and leave a whole bunch of people off. But I think right now there's only like 30 or 40 people that I haven't followed back. And I'll get to you. And if I don't, just, send me a tweet or at me and say, hey, Duck, follow me back. And I'll get better at this podcast thing. This is only like a couple that I've done. I've been a guest on some other shows or whatever, but I kind of freestyle, I made the mistake. I went on, one of these guys, Kev's show, or I think Kev was a guest on it, and the whole thing was about recruiting, and I don't do recruiting. Nothing. I know zero about the upcoming recruits, so I kind of just bullshitted my way through it, but I was, thankful they had me on. And if anybody wants to have me on, let me know because my availability is pretty wide open. Not going back to work anytime soon. The podcast stuff is set up. So that's it. It's Clemson. Let's avenge the chain. Let's make fun of Dabo all week long about not having a chin and having to tie his coronavirus mask around his back because his lower jaw just goes straight into his solar plexus or into his windpipe. This is Duck. I'm out.